Tracy and Luke are a happy couple and enjoying their vacation in a place called Hell's Reef. As they're having a swim and talking about how the experience has been great, Tracy suddenly spots a shark in the water. Luke doesn't think it's possible and says Tracy might be seeing things. When Tracy insists that she saw something, Luke asks that they leave the water and return to their boat. Just as Tracy swims over to the boat, she looks back and notices that Luke is not behind her. She soon figures out that he has been eaten by the shark. She starts to panic as she doesn't know what to do. As she climbs the boat, a metal pole gets loose and knocks her back into the water, with the shark still moving around. The next day, a man named Charlie returns from his trip with a couple he took on a tour on his plane. Charlie runs an air charter service along with his girlfriend Kaz. When Kaz comes to meet Charlie, she complains about the mess made by the couple on the plane and tells Charlie to clean it up before walking away angrily. Later that day, Charlie apologizes, and just as Kaz asks whether he has ever thought about getting married to her, he receives a call from someone who wants to book their services for the next day. As they really need the money, Charlie and Kaz are excited and looking forward to receiving their latest customers. The next day, Charlie and Kaz are taking a look at the plane and preparing for the flight along with their cook Benny when a couple arrives in an exotic car. Their names are Joji and Michelle, and they are headed for a tour of Hell's Reef, and they've hired Charlie and Kaz to take them there. The couple greets Charlie and Kaz, who then offers to show them around before they leave. As Michelle follows Kaz, Benny stumbles into her, and they both can't seem to take their eyes off each other for a while. Joji sees this and doesn't like how it looks. Before going on the plane, Joji asks Charlie if he's expecting anything rough, because he doesn't like flying too well, but Charlie says there's nothing to worry about. As he moves towards the boat, Joji aggressively gives his bag to Benny before asking Charlie if he's also coming with them. Charlie says Benny is the cook who will prepare the meals. They'll eat when they get to Hell's Reef, and Joji says he hopes that's all he does. When Joji walks away, Benny and Charlie laugh it off as they don't seem to get why Joji is angry. Shortly after, the trip starts, and Charlie tells the couple to look out for dolphins in the sea. Benny jokingly says there might also be sharks too, and this gets Joji and Michelle scared. Kaz tells Benny to stop talking about sharks, and Charlie also tells the couple that they don't have to worry about sharks because they'll most likely be far away as the current season is unfavorable for them. Kaz also tells them that they can believe what Charlie says because he's a good marine biologist who knows his stuff. Charlie jokes about how he used to think that too, until a shark took a bite out of him. This doesn't sound like what Joji and Michelle want to hear, as they seem really scared. However, Michelle gets curious and asks how it happened. Even though Joji thinks it's not okay to talk about it, Charlie says he doesn't mind. He tells them that the shark bit him while he was out on his own doing research on some of the sharks and their pack hunting skills. He also shows them the bite mark, which he plays down as anything serious, though Kaz says the shark attack put him in the hospital for 2 weeks. After a while on the plane, they soon arrive at Hell's Reef. Kaz starts to talk about the origin of the place, saying it used to be called Imperious Reef before it was renamed. She says it was renamed after a shipwreck that happened during a storm on the reef. Kaz also says that 8 crew members from the ship were stranded on the reef for 15 days, without food or water. As she mentions that only one person survived, Michelle says the man was her grandfather. She also says she and Joji came over to the reef to pour his ashes into the water because it was his dying wish to be buried there so he could be reunited with his crew. Benny tells Michelle that everyone knows about her grandfather and he's like a legend in the area. Not long after, Joji and Michelle ask to take a look around, and as they walk away, Kaz and Charlie talk about how they'll still let Michelle pour the ashes into the reef even though it's not allowed. As they continue walking, Kaz brings up the conversation about getting married again. Charlie, however, gets distracted as he watches some dolphins in the reef. Suddenly, Kaz tells him that she's pregnant. Charlie doesn't know how to respond to this, but he looks happy about it. Kaz and Charlie then decide that the next thing for them is to get married after they're back from the trip. When Kaz says she's not sure how she'll be able to handle the pregnancy with work, Charlie assures her that he'll be there for her and she has to worry about nothing. Shortly after, Benny comes over to tell Kaz and Charlie to come and see something. They go closer and see that Michelle is crying. Kaz tries to console Michelle, but Joji doesn't sound interested. As Charlie asks what it is, Joji points him to the dead body that has washed up to the shore. The body happens to be Luke's dead body after he was killed by a shark. Kaz and Charlie are shocked by what they see and this triggers Charlie to remember his own battle with a shark. Kaz then tells Charlie they need to get Joji and Michelle out of the reef, and he agrees. As he walks away, she sees a phone lying just beside the dead body and unlocks it using Luke's thumbprint. From the pictures on the phone, Kaz realizes that Luke was with someone else on the reef. After that, she joins the others while they're wondering what to do next. Charlie says he has called for help and the Coast Guard will handle it. Benny then says that Luke's boat could still be out there and his partner from the pictures on his phone could be there. Joji doesn't like the sound of this, as he believes it's too risky since they don't know where to look. When Charlie and the others think they can at least try to find the boat, Joji angrily walks out on them, and Michelle has to go and convince him. They all eventually get back on the plane, and Charlie agrees that if they don't find anything after a while, they'll head back home. As they continue moving, Michelle suddenly sees the boat. Charlie lands the plane on the water, and they wonder what they'll find inside the already capsized boat. Charlie volunteers to go and check it, but Kaz tells him not to go because if something happens to him, none of them have any experience in flying the plane out of there. With this, Benny volunteers to go and check the boat. He jumps into the water and makes it into the boat. As he checks around, he suddenly gets startled by Tracy's dead body, which has already been eaten by the shark. He immediately swims out and tells the others that the shark also killed Luke's partner. With this, they decide to head back home. Just as Benny is about to enter the plane, Michelle sees a shark headed for them at full speed. It is, however, too late as the shark crashes against the plane, knocking down Benny into the water. The plane then starts to sink, and as they worry about where Benny is, he appears inside the water with an injury to his arm. Charlie and Kaz ask him to set up the life raft so that they can all get in. As he does this, Kaz and Michelle immediately swim to get into it. Charlie also swims out, only to see Joji saying he won't get into the raft as he looks scared. Despite Charlie's attempts to convince him, he doesn't listen, and Charlie has to leave him. Joji also finally has a change of heart and joins them. They all watch as the plane sinks, and Joji asks Charlie if he is able to get a mayday out. Charlie says he's not sure, and Joji complains about this. He also starts to lament about how he asks them to go home, but they insist on coming to look for the boat, and now they're stuck. Michelle asks if a rescue boat could be on its way, but Benny says they'll be far from where they currently are before the boat arrives. When she also asks about a search plane, Charlie says the authorities won't send one out until the next day because it will soon get dark. Charlie says their best option is to use the current and keep paddling until they get to land. Joji thinks it's not a reasonable idea, but Charlie tells him to stop complaining if he has no better ideas. Joji remains silent, and Charlie starts paddling along with Kaz. Later on, Kaz and Michelle start talking, and Michelle mentions that Joji is only angry because he's scared. She says he almost drowned when he was a kid, and because of that, he has been terrified of going into the water since then. She tells Kaz that she was the one who convinced him to come with her, and that was why he agreed. Kaz also tells Michelle the story of how she met Charlie. She says she was a nurse at the hospital he was brought in after the shark attacked him. She also mentions that she's pregnant, and Michelle looks happy for her. Shortly after, Charlie says they're now far away from where the plane sank, though there's still some paddling to do before they reach the shore. As Joji tries to complain again, he notices something in the water. He immediately shouts that it's a shark, but as he tries to paddle away very fast, Benny tells him it's only a dolphin. Michelle looks really scared and tells Joji to be more careful as he could have fallen into the water as he was paddling fast. Even though he doesn't initially like how she says it, he agrees to be more careful. As everywhere soon gets dark, Joji starts talking about how he thinks their chances of survival are really low if the sharks are still around. He accuses Kaz and Charlie of knowing the truth about the sharks, but as he asks Charlie if he thinks the sharks are still close, he says he doesn't know. As Joji continues to disturb Charlie to say the truth, Charlie says he's sure the sharks are still around and close to them. A while later, Michelle starts paddling, but soon gets tired and falls asleep. In the process, she drops one of the paddles in the water. When she wakes up, she tells the others and looks scared as she apologizes for her mistake. Charlie thinks of going into the water to get it, but before he can, Kaz jumps in, much to his surprise. She tells him not to worry as she gradually swims to get the paddle. When she gets it, Charlie urges her to get back to the raft as fast as she can. She's able to get back in, and Charlie is happy nothing happened to her. Later on, when everywhere gets cold, Charlie gives 2 wetsuits to Kaz and Michelle so they can stay warm. As they wear it, Benny can't help but ask Michelle if she needs his help, and this gets Joji so angry that he pushes Benny into the water. The others are shocked by this and immediately ask Benny to swim back to the raft. However, Benny's injured arm makes it hard for him to swim, and as the others keep encouraging him, a shark shows up and kills him. They all cannot believe this, and Kaz tries to attack Joji, but Charlie says he's not worth it. Not long after, Charlie finds a knife among the objects in the first aid bag. He says if he can get close to the shark, then he can kill it by cutting through the middle of its eyes, which is where the brain is. Kaz is not too sure about it, but Charlie says it remains an option, with the only problem being that he needs to find a way to get close to the shark. As he returns the knife into the first aid bag, Michelle asks him to also help her keep the pot containing her grandfather's ashes inside. A while later, Charlie and the others are silent inside the raft when the shark suddenly flips it and throws them into the water. They are all frightened by this, and Charlie immediately calls for them to come closer to the raft and get back in to avoid getting killed by the shark. Kaz and Michelle join Charlie back in, but Joji struggles to overcome his fear of swimming. As Michelle sees this, she tries to go back in to save him, but Charlie stops her just as the shark jumps out and attacks Joji. Michelle looks terrified and starts crying, but suddenly Joji appears, calling for their help as he bleeds heavily. Michelle again pushes to go and save him, but before they can paddle the raft fast enough to get to him, the shark shows up again and finally kills Joji. The next morning, Michelle finally pours her grandfather's ashes into the sea, with Kaz also going over to comfort and tell her that they can still survive just like her grandfather. Not long after, Charlie says they have to do something about the sharks to make it successfully to the shore. As he finishes talking, they see a shark heading for the raft. They try to get it to move away, but another one appears, and Charlie realizes that the sharks are now hunting in packs. Before they can think of what to do next, a shark jumps out of the water, and they are all frightened with Kaz falling off the raft. Charlie immediately asks her to come back in, and she's able to do that before the sharks attack again. They also figure out that the sharks have put a dent in the raft, which will soon allow it to start sinking. After a while, Michelle sees that they're close to the shore. She alerts the others and they start paddling faster before the raft sinks. Unfortunately, Charlie sees two sharks headed for them. As he's got to do something about it so that the ladies can get to safety, he takes out a flare gun and knife from the first aid bag. He tells Kaz that he'll try to slow down the sharks while they swim fast to the shore. Kaz says she won't let him do it alone, and even though he tries to convince her to leave, she tells him they will try to kill the shark together. With this, Kaz takes the flare gun and asks Michelle to jump out of the boat and swim to the shore, while she and Charlie will try to kill the shark. Kaz and Charlie also go into the water, and after a while looking around, they see one of the sharks. They come up with a plan and execute it brilliantly as Kaz shoots the shark with the flare gun, while Charlie climbs its back to stab its brain. The shark dies, and they look relieved about it. Meanwhile, the other shark goes after Michelle, but when it sees that she has climbed on top of a big piece of debris from a shipwreck that is on the surface of the water, it turns back and goes after the others. The shark catches Kaz and Charlie unawares, and as it heads for them, Charlie directs Kaz to swim away. He, however, misses his shot at the shark, and it kills him. Kaz is soon able to swim to meet Michelle, and she cries about losing Charlie. The shark is relentless, and it heads for them again. It jumps out and frightens the ladies, who then fall back into the water. Kaz immediately tells Michelle to swim to the shore while she tries to take revenge and kill the shark. She goes into the water and starts looking for the shark. When she sees it, the shark almost kills her, but she runs to the center of a shipwreck deep inside the ocean to hide from it. As the shark still goes after her, it soon gets stuck with a sharp metal rod, then dangling over its head. Kaz suddenly starts losing consciousness, but Michelle shows up and helps her, after which Kaz starts kicking the ship's metal part so that the one dangling over the shark can kill it. She continues to kick it, and the sharp metal soon falls and kills the shark. With this, Kaz and Michelle then swim to the shore, where they look relieved to have survived. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing, because I've got some bills to pay.
Back in my bag and I ain't gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.